Hello and welcome to the Minimum Competence episode for Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. I'm your host for today, Andrew Leahy, a tax and technology attorney from New Jersey. On today's episode, Trump's tariff-heavy meandering address, a court ruling on Cantor Fitzgerald's 9/11 grant, rising threats against judges, and Senate scrutiny of EPA nominees. Let's remember, success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. And read today's legal news. On this day in legal history, March 5th, 1970, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or NPT, officially took effect, marking a major milestone in global efforts to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. The treaty, first opened for signatures in 1968, was ratified by 43 nations and established a framework based on three core principles. 1. Non-proliferation. 2. Disarmament. And 3. The peaceful use of nuclear energy. Under its terms, nuclear-armed states agreed not to transfer nuclear weapons or technology to non-nuclear states, while non-nuclear countries pledged not to pursue nuclear weapons. In return, signatories were guaranteed access to nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, such as power generation and medical research. The treaty also called for eventual nuclear disarmament, though progress on this front has been slow and uneven. The NPT has since become one of the most widely adhered to arms control agreements, with 191 countries now party to it. However, key states like India, Pakistan, and Israel never joined, while North Korea withdrew in 2003. The treaty's effectiveness has been challenged by nuclear programs in states like Iran and North Korea, as well as concerns over compliance by nuclear-armed signatories. Despite these challenges, the NPT is reviewed every 5 years at review conferences where nations assess progress and negotiate future commitments. The treaty remains central to international non-proliferation efforts, balancing national security interests with the goal of reducing nuclear threats worldwide. In his primetime address to Congress, President Donald Trump defended his aggressive tariff policies, claiming they would generate significant revenue, they won't, and restore economic balance, they won't. He downplayed concerns over rising consumer prices, characterizing them as temporary inconveniences. While Trump briefly addressed inflation, blaming high costs on his predecessor, he provided few concrete solutions. Instead, he focused on politically charged topics like immigration and cultural issues, declaring an end to, quote, wokeness. His speech coincided with growing economic concerns, including stagnating factory activity and declining consumer confidence, while markets reacted negatively to escalating trade tensions. New tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China sparked fears of inflation and economic slowdown, though his administration suggested potential relief for North American allies. Trump also called for the repeal of the CHIPS Act, arguing tariffs were more effective in boosting domestic industry. He promoted energy independence, but proposed long-term projects unlikely to have an immediate impact. Meanwhile, his executive actions have rapidly reshaped government policies, sparking bipartisan concerns. The speech underscored Trump's efforts to push his economic agenda while navigating political and economic challenges. The U.S. Tax Court ruled that a $3.1 million grant given to a Cantor Fitzgerald subsidiary after the September 11th attacks is taxable income. The grant, provided in 2007 through New York City's World Trade Center Job Creation and Retention Program, was meant to help businesses recover, but the court determined it did not qualify as a tax-exempt gift or disaster aid. Despite this, the court waived $211,000 in penalties, acknowledging the complexity of tax laws at the time. Cantor Fitzgerald, which lost 658 employees in the World Trade Center attacks, had argued the funds should not be considered taxable, citing past Supreme Court rulings. However, Judge Kathleen M. Kerrigan found that the payments were not an act of disinterested generosity, but an effort to stimulate economic activity. The IRS had initially determined in 2007 that the company owed about $1.1 million in taxes for not reporting the grant on its tax returns. While Cantor Fitzgerald contested the classification, the court upheld the IRS's position, reinforcing that government aid programs do not automatically qualify for tax exemption. Federal judges are facing an increase in threats as Elon Musk and Trump allies intensify their attacks on the judiciary over rulings that hinder White House policies. The U.S. Marshals Service has warned judges about heightened security risks, especially as Musk has repeatedly criticized judges on his social media platform, calling them corrupt and evil. Some judges have received anonymous deliveries like pizzas and what authorities see as intimidation tactics. Musk's posts, along with calls from Republican lawmakers to impeach certain judges, have coincided with a rise in violent threats, particularly against judges who have blocked parts of the administration's plans to cut government jobs and aid programs. One judge, Amir Ali, received death threats after ruling against a Trump executive order, with online users calling for his execution. The American Bar Association and the Federal Judges Association have condemned these attacks, warning that continued intimidation could undermine judicial independence. Since 2020, threats against federal judges have more than doubled, and legal experts caution that targeting judges for their rulings could destabilize the rule of law. Two Trump EPA nominees are facing Senate scrutiny over the agency's possible plan to roll back the 2009 endangerment finding, which forms the legal basis for regulating greenhouse gas emissions under the Clean Air Act. The nominees, Aaron Sabato and David Fatui, would oversee efforts to reverse this finding, which has supported climate regulations on power plants and vehicle emissions. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has recommended reconsidering the finding to the White House, though details remain undisclosed. While the Supreme Court's 2007 ruling in Massachusetts v. EPA confirmed greenhouse gases as air pollutants, the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act further solidified the EPA's authority. However, the EPA under Trump previously avoided overturning the rule due to industry resistance. Some industry groups, like the Edison Electric Institute, have expressed reliance on EPA authority for emissions regulation, while automakers have yet to take a position. Zeldin acknowledged the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gases, but suggested it is not obligated to do so, fueling debate over the agency's future climate policies. And with that, and as always, I thank you so much for listening to Minimum Competence, your daily news podcast for lawyers. If you're looking for more than Minimum Competence, links to further reading on all the topics touched on today are in the show notes. And reviews go a long way towards helping new listeners to find our show. If you have a moment and leave a rating or review on your podcast player, we'd appreciate it. And if you know someone that might be interested in the story we cover, consider sending them the episode. But remember, nothing here should be construed as legal advice because it is certainly not that. Minimum Competence is available at minimumcomp.com and wherever it is you get your finely crafted podcasts. If you haven't checked out the website in a while, give it a look. There are complete transcripts and resources for each episode and its corresponding segments, as well as an opportunity to receive new episodes in email, newsletter, form. We'll see you back here tomorrow, and until then, remember, if you're going through hell, keep going.